used to it. After getting used to it, only it will come out a little more uh, f- in a fluent way. It will be possible for you to write programs. So though you stuck at initial stages, don't worry over that, because this particular subject for most of the people, you are just not recollecting. I won't say recollecting. It's a process of learning the subject again after finishing your UG. Okay, so though you feel stuff, if we put a little bit effort on practicing more number of problems, it will be easy for us to end up with good coding skills. So this is what we actually uh, tell our students in the same way. I'm saying this to you. You people can follow the same stuff, and you can also become very good, because when compared with students, the way in which you people as students learn for 4 years, we are learning for the past 10 years. If our experience is below 10 years, starting with our teaching experience, all the period of time we are teaching. If we are teaching, then obviously we people will be learning. So take this particular subject also in such a way that you're learning a new subject and you're exploring yourself, so that it will be easy for you. Okay, so this is just a small piece of advice you can take from me. And now we will move on with today's session. So this is day 5. So in our previous class, we discussed about selection control structure. In today's class also, we are going to discuss about a control structure. Control structure actually means these structures can change the flow, sequential flow of your program. Okay, so when I say sequential flow, it means line by line execution. That is called a sequential flow. So if this line by line execution is being controlled, if you want to control that line by line execution by involving decision making in by involving decision making scenarios into your program, then you go for selection control structures. Okay, another case is going to be iteration control structure. So when we speak about iteration control structure, it actually means there is a set of statements in your program which should get executed more than once repeatedly. Okay, there are 4 lines. So if you want those 4 lines to get executed again and again and again, so rather writing those 4 lines again and again and again. For example, I have 60 students in my class. Okay, so I have to get their name, roll number, and the 6 subject marks. I want to give this as input to a program. So what you will do, you will write enter the name, then you will get the name, then enter the roll number, you will get the roll number, then enter the mark 1, mark 2, mark 3, something like this. Okay, so this 5 lines, for example, there are 3 subjects. Okay, these 5 lines are specific to one particular student. So these 5 lines are used to get the uh, attributes with respect to one particular student. So his name, his roll number, and his 3 subject marks. Now again, if you want to do the same for the second student, again you will write those 5 lines. Enter the marks. You will get the input from the user. Enter the name, enter the roll number, enter their marks. So you have to do it again and again for 60 students. Okay, so you have 4 lines of code which has to be which is helpful to get the input of one particular student. So if I want to do it for 60 students, then obviously it will be 240 lines. Okay, I have to write 240 lines. So to avoid it, these 4 lines have to be done repeatedly for 60 times. So if that is going to be my constraint, so what I can do is I will write those 4 lines and I will iterate them again and again until my requirement is getting fulfilled. Okay, so this is the purpose of using iteration control structures. Okay, so we have already discussed, I've already given you uh, a somewhat a detailed or a brief description of this iteration control structure in our day 2. Okay, so again we are going to have a detailed study of iteration control structure with respect to Python. So how the syntax of all those looping statements, or we can say it as iteration statements, will look with respect to Python. So we will be discussing about while, for, and you will we will be getting explored to a new built-in function. If you recollect, I have already taught you a set of built-in functions. Okay, a built-in function implies a set of standard functions, okay, for which the definition is already there. So whenever I require, I can use it. Okay, so in your previous class, I explored you with one built-in function. What was that? If you recollect, you can answer me. What was the built-in function that we explored in our previous class?
ID, ma'am.
Yes, thank you. Good, ma'am. ID was the function that we built-in function that we explored in our previous class. So ID was used to get the, if I give an object, it will return the
Address, memory address.
memory address of that object. So this was the built-in function we discussed in a previous class. And the same way we will be discussing about a built-in function called as range in today's class. Okay. So other than that, you have break, continue, and pass, and we will be discussing about nested loops. So we will go one by one. We will start our discussion with respect. So as I said, the same stuff. Iteration actually means if you want to repeat a set of statements again and again, then that is called as iteration. So under iteration, we will be seeing about while for, break statement, continue statement, pass statement. So if you look into the left hand side, okay, so according to me it's left hand side, so while loop and for loop, so these two loops, okay, are used to control the flow. That is, if you want to repeatedly execute a set of statements again and again, you go for while and for. Okay, so the other set of statements that I've mentioned at the right side, break, continue, and parts, these are not going to work out this. These are not iteration control structures. But if you want to control these iteration control structures, okay, so I have a while loop. Okay, so if I want to stop the while loop at a specific point, okay, so after this point, no need for that while loop to get executed. So there is an external condition you are setting up, not the original condition of the while loop. So if you have some external conditions which will actually control the flow of this while and for loop, then we can use these kind of statements called as break, continue, and pass. So you will understand those kind of statements when we discuss it with examples. So we will be seeing it. Okay, so now I will start a discussion with respect to while loop. So I'll give you the syntax of while in Python. So first you have to give the keyword while followed by the condition. Okay, so we know what the while loop is going to do. Okay, so what the while loop actually does, it will repeat the execution of a set of statements, okay, which is present within the while loop until a condition is true. Okay, so whatever condition that has been mentioned over here, okay, if this condition is true, the statements inside this while loop will get executed. Okay, so when I start for the first time, I will check this condition. If this condition is true, what I will do, I will execute this set of statements. After executing this set of statements, what happens, again this condition will be checked. Again, if the condition is true, these set of statements will get executed. Okay, after executing the set of statements, again you will go check the condition. If the condition is true, again you will execute this set of statements. After finishing that execution, you will come back again. Now if the condition is false, okay, now when you reach the state that the condition is false, you will you will come out of this while loop. So when the condition becomes false, you will come out of the while loop. Okay, so this is the concept of while loop. Okay, you will check for a condition. If the condition is true, you will execute the set of statements within the while loop. After finishing that execution, you will again move on with the checking of the condition. So again, if it is true, execute the statements. Again, you will go check the condition. If condition becomes false, you will come out, you will stop the execution of the statements within your while loop, and you will be completely coming out. Okay, so what we will do first is I will teach you two examples for while loop. Okay, so the first example, we will take an airport scenario itself. Okay, so airport scenario that we have discussed already. So what is that airport scenario that we have discussed already? We are going to take into account over here is the conveyor belt rotation. So we all know whenever a passenger whenever a flight has landed, okay, after the passenger comes out and finishes his immigration check, he will proceed with the process of collecting his baggage. Okay, so if you have gone to airport, you would have seen there will be a conveyor belt which will be rotating. Okay, it will be rotating, and the baggages will be placed in that conveyor belt. Okay, so now at each and every rotation, certain baggages can be picked by the passengers, and still there will be remaining packages on the conveyor belt. If there are remaining baggages on the conveyor belt, again the conveyor belt should rotate. So this is the concept of that conveyor belt. So now what we are going to do is we are going to find out how many times this conveyor belt is going to rotate. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write a program to count how many times a conveyor belt is rotating, okay, so that the passengers can collect the baggages. Okay, so now we will move on with the process of writing program. Okay, so I will make a note of it. I will go to Python ideally. So it opens. We will write a script. Okay, so file, a new file. Okay, so now the first step, that is before writing the program, I will just uh, push on. We'll speak about the logic first, okay, how we are going to solve it, and then we'll start with the writing process. So now tell me, what is the input that is needed for this program first? I want to count the number of times the conveyor belt is going to rotate. Okay, so over the conveyor belt, what will be placed? Baggages will be placed. Okay, so the first input that I would have got from the user will be what? I'm discussing about the input. Just I'll just write input. Okay, so that's it. Number of, I'm deciding upon the input. So input will be number of baggages. Okay, I should have got this value, number of baggages. Okay, so after the number of baggages, this is one input. Okay, this I will get one time. Okay, now what is the other input that will be required for solving this problem? I think you can give answers. Number of baggages implies initial
Number
number
of
of
rotation.
baggages. Number of rotations is what we have to find out. Your output is number of rotations, because I don't know how many times my conveyor belt should rotate. So I'm going to find out how many times my conveyor belt is going to rotate. Okay, this is what I'm going to find out. Number of rotations. Now, other than this, what can be the inputs? Whether the bag is taken or not. Okay, so count the bags taken. Okay, number of bags picked by the people. So in each and every rotation, so for each rotation, what you have to get? For each rotation, you have to get the number of baggages picked. Okay, hope I am clear. At initially you will get one input. What is that input? How many number of baggages is placed over the conveyor belt? Okay, so for example, if that is equal to 150, I will take that into account. Then what I have to do, I have to find out how many times that conveyor belt is going to rotate, because I don't know how many times it is going to rotate. So my output will be number of rotations is what I have to find out. Okay, so what is the next input? For each and every rotation, okay, certain value of baggages will be picked up, so that I should get as input from the user. Okay, so I'm writing a program. So for my program, I need inputs from the user. So how many packages is picked up at that rotation, I will take it off. Now we will speak about the process. Okay, so when we speak about the process, that is your logic. Okay, so how do you frame your logic? For each rotation, so for each rotation, what you do over here, for each rotation you will get what as input? You will get the number of bags picked. Okay.
Remaining. Number of bags remaining.
Okay. So how you will calculate number of bags remaining? You have to calculate number of
Total
bags.
number of bags minus total number of bags picked up.
Okay. So bags remaining is equal to total number of bags. So what I will do is, rather than putting number of bags remaining, okay, what I will calculate at this stage what is going to be the number of bags. So number of bags will be, so number of baggages will be equal to, as you said, total number of baggages, already existing number of baggages
Yes.
minus number of
Back
bags.
picked up.
Okay. Okay. So after finding out this value, what I have to do? So one rotation is over. So if one rotation is over, I have to count it. Yes or no? Because I want that value as output. What is the value I require as output? I require the number of rotations as my output. Okay. So one rotation has taken place. So the number of bags has been picked up. So you have minused those bags from the original count. And now you need what you need a variable, okay, to count the number of rotations. So when this is over, one rotation is over, so you have to increment the number of rotations by 1. Okay, so for each rotation, so initially the number of rotation value will be what? It will be equal to
0.
0. Okay, so at initial stage it will be equal to 0. So when I perform each rotation, this value should be incremented. Okay, so this is the process that will be applied over here. So now we will try to convert this entire scenario into a program. Okay, just putting it. So now how I'm going to write my program? What I need as input first, I need my number of packages. So I need a variable for that. So I'll put number of baggage is equal to, I have to get the input from the user. So what I will do, I will use the input statement. Okay, so I will use the input statement, enter the number of baggages. Enter the number of baggages. Okay, so I've got this as input. So after getting the input, since it will be a string, I'm just converting that into a integer, a number value. Okay, so after this, what I have to do, I need to know what is the output that I require? Rotations count. So I will declare a variable called as rotation, and I will initialize that value to 0. Okay. So now I'm going to use my while loop, because you're going to do the process of repeating a set of statement again and again. So now what you have to do, at the first rotation you would have calculated, you would have got the number of bags picked. After calculating the number of bags picked, you will minus that from the number of initial bags, so that the number of bags gets reduced on the conveyor belt. So conveyor beltல first 150 இருந்துச்சு, first rotationல 10 bags எடுத்துட்டாங்கன்னா இப்ப conveyor beltல எத்தனை bags இருக்கும்? 140 இருக்கும். So அந்த கால்குலேஷனுக்கு தான் இந்த ஸ்டெப். ஸோ இப்போ என்கிட்ட இருக்கிற நம்பர் ஆஃப் பேக்ஸ் எவ்வளோ? 140 தான். ஓகே, ஸோ now again I will go check whether that number of bags is equal to what. Now how I will frame the condition for while? I have to proceed with this rotation until I have a question. Okay, in my process I have a question. What is my question? I have to proceed. I have to proceed this rotation until what? Until number of bags, okay, number of bag gauges becomes 0. Okay, so until that I have to proceed with this process. Okay, so now that is what I'm going to set up as condition over here. So what is my number of baggages? When number of baggages, how I will set the condition? Tell me. Number of baggage, if it is equal to 0, what I have to do? I will stop. But if I want to do that rotation process, if the number of baggages value, I can put it as greater than 0. Okay, if it is greater than 0, it means still you have bags in your conveyor belt. Okay, while number of baggages is greater than 0, it means still there are bags on the conveyor belt. You have to proceed with the process of rotation. So what you have to do, you come inside your while loop. After coming inside your while loop, you have to get what as input? Bags picked should be got as input. So bags picked is equal to int input of enter the number of bags picked. Okay, so after getting this, what I have to do? As you gave me the answer, I have to subtract that from the total number of bags. So number of baggage will be equal to number of baggage minus what? Minus. So already my number of bags was 150. Now I have picked 10. Okay, so this will be bags picked. Hope you are following. Okay, so now after the number of bags picked, let me put a print statement. Print statement, what will be my print statement is the remaining number of bags is, I'm just putting a print statement. Remaining number of bags is, so what will be the remaining number of bags? What should I print? What is the remaining number of bags? Initially I had 150 bags. Now the bags picked value is equal to 10. So since 10 bags are picked, the number of baggage will become 140. So what will come over here? What I'm trying to print the remaining bags. So it will be number of baggage. I'm just printing it. Okay. So these are the remaining baggages. But what is the output that I require? Number of rotations. So I have to increment my rotation value because one rotation is over. Okay, during that rotation, these much of bags has been picked up, and that count is being reduced from the original number of baggages. So now I will just increment my rotations value by 1. Rotation will be equal to rotation original value plus 1. So originally it was what? 0. So 0 plus 1 implies one rotation is completed. Okay. So after finishing this 4 lines, what will happen over here? Again, your control will return to this while. Will check the condition. So for example, I said if it is going to be 140, 10 bags are being picked, sorry, 150, 10 bags are being picked, remaining will be 140. Now we will check 140 is greater than 0. True. Obviously I have to go for the second rotation. So I'll move on with the next rotation. So when this while gets over, okay, when this while process is getting over, I need to print the value of the total number of rotations. Okay, so now what I have to do finally, I have to print after finishing this while. Okay, so this 4 lines are within your while. Okay, so when the while becomes false, it means all the baggages have been picked up, and now we know how many rotations have taken place. So now I can directly print the number of rotations, comma, rotations. So this value I can print. So hope this process is understandable. First, you are getting the initial number of baggages from user. Okay, your output should be the total number of rotations. So I'm initializing that to 0. Okay, so now how I'm going to do this process? I have to repeat for each rotation. I have to find out how many bags are being picked up. So that bags should be reduced from the total number of baggages. So again, if the remaining baggages is going to be greater than 0, again and again I have to do this process. So for each rotation, I'm incrementing that rotation value so that finally I can print the rotation value. So hope we can execute this program. So I'm putting the program as bag.py. So now enter the number of baggages. So if I give the value as 150, okay. So it is asking in the first rotation, it is asking me to enter the number of baggages picked. So how many baggages picked? I will put 50. So what will be the remaining number of baggages at that stage? 100 bags are still remaining. So again, I have to give the number of baggages to be picked. So I'm giving it as 75. So now again 25 bags are being left out. Okay, enter the number of baggages picked up in this rotation 10. So now the remaining number of baggages become 15. So if I give 15, the remaining number of baggages is 0. So how many rotations have taken place? In first rotation 50 bags were taken. In second rotation 75 bags were being taken. In the third rotation 10 bags were being taken. And in the fourth rotation 15 bags of have been taken, and all put together it will become 150. So finally, the number of bags remaining will be 0. So we will stop the while loop and we will print the total number of rotation is 4. Okay. So now we calculated how many times that conveyor belt has rotated. 4 times it has rotated. Okay. Is it clear? So you can clearly understand why we have used while loop over here, because we have to do a set of steps again and again for each rotation. So in each rotation, I will pick up a set of bags. I have to reduce that bag from my original number of bags count, and then I have to count the rotation. Okay, so this three steps have to take place again and again until we reach this value called as 0 for the number of bags. Okay, so we have moved on with while loop. So hope it's clear. It's clear. Yes or no? Yes. So I will move on with the next example. So here is another example. So if you read out this problem statement, what they're asking you is create a program that computes the average of a collection of values entered by the user. Okay. So what is being told in your first line? It's been informed about your input. What they're telling in the first line lay உன்னுடைய இன்புட் என்ன உங்களுடைய அவுட்புட் என்னன்னு சொல்லிட்டாங்க. என்ன இன்புட் உங்களுடைய இன்புட்? They are going to give you a collection of values. Okay, collection of values is going to be given as input to the user. So with this collection of values, what my user need to compute is what you have to find out as output. You have to find out its average. Okay, so this is your output. So in the first line itself, you have understood that you have to find out average for a collection of values which is being given by the user. Okay, so now still more என்ன ப்ராசஸ் பண்ணணும்னு சொல்லிட்டாங்க. ஓகே, என்ன இன்புட் வாங்கணும்னு சொல்லிட்டாங்க, என்ன இன்புட் கொடுக்கப்படும் சொல்லிட்டாங்க, வாட் அவுட்புட் யூ ஹேவ் டு கால்குலேட்னு சொல்லிட்டாங்க. ஸோ நவ் வி பீப்புள் ஹேவ் டு டிசைட் அப்பான் தி லாஜிக், பட் ஸ்டில் தி ப்ரோக்ராம் கண்டினியூஸ். ஸோ வி வில் ரீட் தி ப்ரோக்ராம். ஸோ வாட் தே ஹேவ் செட் இன் தி ப்ரோக்ராம், தி யூசர் வில் என்டர் 0 as a sentinel value to indicate that there are no further values will be provided. So what is the meaning of this is they are not telling you how many number of values is going to be given. For example, நான் முதல்ல n சொல்லிடுவேன். அதாவது நான் 10 நம்பர்ஸ் கொடுக்க போறேன், அந்த 10 நம்பர்ஸ் இதுதான் அப்படின்னு நான் சொன்னேன்னா, initially I'm telling how many numbers I'm going to give as input. But in this particular example, there is no such statement. They're going to give you the values directly. So now I don't know how many values are going to come. So how they have mentioned that the user will enter 0 as a sentinel value that to indicate that there are no further values provided. இப்போ வந்து யூசர் கிட்ட இருந்து இன்புட் வாங்குறேன். யூசர் 1 ஃபர்ஸ்ட் கொடுக்குறாங்க, அப்புறம் 45 கொடுக்குறாங்க, அப்புறம் 67 கொடுக்குறாங்க, அப்புறம் 2 கொடுக்குறாங்க, 3 கொடுக்குறாங்க, அதுக்கப்புறம் 0 கொடுத்தாங்கன்னா, what is the meaning of that? 0 is a sentinel value that indicates that no more inputs will be given from the user. User இதுக்கு மேல இன்புட் கொடுக்க மாட்டாங்கன்னு அர்த்தம். So with 0, the total number of values is being stopped. Okay, so now they're giving you some more conditions over here. அதெல்லாம் அண்டர்ஸ்டாண்ட் பண்ணிக்கணும். So this is how they will give you the input. They will give 1. You have to get 1 first. Then you have to get the next number. Again you have to get the next number, next number, next number. You have to do this process of getting the next number, next number, next number until you reach a value 0. When you reach the value 0, what you have to do? You have to stop the process. Okay, now there is another question. If the user gives the first value as 0, what does it mean? Is it possible for you to get a collection of values, and is it possible for you to find out an average? No, obviously not. Okay, so what they have told at the next part of your program should display an appropriate error message if the first value entered by the user is 0. So user first 0 enter பண்ணிட்டாங்கன்னா உன்னால கலெக்ஷனே வாங்க முடியாது. அப்ப நீ என்ன பண்ணணும்? As a developer, if the first value itself 0, what you have to do? You have to give an error message to the user. Okay, your whatever you are entered is not right. Abdin, some sort of messages should be conveyed to the user. Okay, and they are giving you a hint. What is that hint is? Because 0 is a part of this collection. Okay, it should not be included in the average calculation. So why they are telling it, we will understand it now. இப்போ இந்த program உடைய inputs என்னன்னு எழுதுவோம். இந்த program உடைய input என்ன? What are all the inputs for this program?
Collection of values.
Collection of
Collection of
values.
values will be the input. So list of numbers will be the input. Okay. So on the number, for example, 1, 2, 3, 9, 0. So 9, 8, 7, 0. So when you enter the number 0, you have to stop the process of getting inputs from the user. So when you get 1, you will move on with getting the value 2. After getting 2, you will move on with the value of getting 3, then 9, 8, 7. When you get 0 as input, further you should not proceed with it. Okay, that is the meaning over here. So what has been required as an output for this?
Average.
They're asking you to calculate the average. You need to find out the average. So now this is the given input and this is going to be the output that I have to calculate. Okay, so in the ரெண்டையும் in the first frame பண்ணணும். Then we have to move on with the process of framing the logic. Okay, so logic இப்போ average கண்டுபிடிக்கணும்னா நம்மளுக்கு முதல்ல என்ன தெரியணும்? This is very simple mathematics. So to find out average, what I need? Can I find out average directly from the given list of numbers?
Sum of values and the number of
Divided
values.
by the
Okay, so you know that if I want to find average, I have to find out first sum. So the formula to calculate average is very simple. Average is equal to sum divided by total number of values. Now I have another question. Do I know what is the total number of values? Do I know
Number
the
of
total
input
number of values?
number of
No, we
input
have to
values
write
minus 1,
Number of input values minus 1. That is what?
because
Do I know
the
the total number of...
sentinel value is not considered.
Yes, that's fine. But do I know the number of values at the initial stage?
No, we need to make a calculation for that.
We need to calculate it.
We can
Okay,
have
so
a
we
counter
need...
for that.
Yes. So what is the things that we have to find out first? We have to find out what is the sum, and we should also find the total number of values. Then only we can proceed with the process of finding average. Okay. So this is what you have to collect from your program. After reading your program, these stuffs you will understand. So in this program, they have just given the list of numbers. They have never mentioned how many numbers are going to be given. Okay. So when a 0 value is reached, இப்போ நான் 1, 2, 3, 9, 8, 7, 0 கொடுத்தேன். நான் 1, 2, 0 கூட கொடுக்கலாம். So நான் 1, 2, 0 கொடுக்கும்போது number of values எத்தனை? 2. Okay. Now 1, 2, 3, 9, 8, 7 கொடுக்கும்போது total number of value is 6. So for each and every execution, the total number of elements can change. Okay, the total number of elements can change. So in your logic, okay, when you write your logic, you have to see to that you are finding both sum as well as the total number of values. So now we have to convert this into a code. Okay, so this is the inference I have got from my program. So now I have to convert this into a code. So how do I convert? I will start. So what is I need to find out? Okay, so இங்க நம்ம என்ன பண்ண போறோம்னா, what is I need to find out before finding average? I need to find out sum. Okay, so I will initialize that my initial sum is 0, and I should also know the total number of total numbers. Okay, total numbers, total values எழுதிக்கிறேன். Total values. Total values do I know at the initial stage? I don't know. So I am initializing both the values to 0. So this I will give as someone over here. So someone, sum என்றது ஒரு keyword இருக்கும். அதனால தான் keyword வந்துச்சு. So someone name மாத்திக்கிட்டேன். Okay, I cannot have an identifier as a keyword. So I've changed the name to someone. So someone is equal to 0. Total underscore value is equal to 0. So I have initialized these two values. Okay. So now what I'm getting as input from the user? Do I have a decision making in this problem? Now tell me, on reading this problem, the user will enter 0. as a sentinel value to indicate that there are no further values will be provided. மூணாவது லைன் என்ன படிச்சோம்? Your program should display an appropriate error message if the first value entered by the user is 0. So user first enter பண்ற first value if it is going to be 0, I cannot proceed with the process of finding the average. So what I have to do? I have to just print an error message. If the user is not giving the first value to be 0, then I can proceed with the process of finding the average. Am I right or wrong?
Yes.
Is it clear? They are asking you to print an error message if the first input given by the user is 0. Okay, so if the first number is going to be 0, what you have to do? You have to print an error message. Else, if the first number is not a 0, you have to proceed with the process of finding an average. So here you have a decision making. You have to decide. Okay, so decision making இங்க இருக்கிறதுனால நம்ம என்ன control structure use பண்ணணும்?
If else can be used. If
If else will be used. So first what I will do is I will get the number. Okay, so number is equal to int input of enter the number. So I'm entering this number. So after getting the number, what I have to check? If number which I've got from keyboard is equal to
0.
condition check பண்றதுக்கு double equal to use பண்ணணும். If it is equal to 0, what I have to do? I have to print a message error. I will put just as I will mention it as error. Okay. Else what I have to do? Else I have to proceed with the process of calculating the
Average.
average.
Summing up an average.
Yes. To find the average, I have to get the numbers one by one. Okay. So when after getting my number, I have to proceed with the process of summing it. And I should also take that as one count as my first number. Okay. So hope you can understand why we are going into while loop. So while, okay, number is not equal to 0. If number is not equal to 0, I'm coming in. ஓகே, ஸோ நான் இங்கே முதல்ல ஒரு நம்பர் வாங்கிட்டேன். அந்த நம்பர் நாட் ஈக்குவல் டு 0வா தான் இருக்கும். ஸோ நாட் ஈக்குவல் டு 0வா இருந்துச்சுன்னா நான் என்ன பண்ணணும்? What I need to do? I'm sorry, I kept this curly braces over here. So if number is not equal to 0, what I have to do first? நம்ம கண்டுபிடிக்க வேண்டிய வேல்யூ என்ன? ரெண்டு கண்டுபிடிக்கணும். ஆவரேஜ் கண்டுபிடிக்கிறதுக்கு முன்னாடி நம்ம ரெண்டு கண்டுபிடிக்கணும். அது ரெண்டும் என்ன? ஒன்னு சம், இன்னொன்னு டோட்டல் நம்பர் ஆஃப் வேல்யூஸ். ஸோ சம் வில் பி ஈக்குவல் டு already existing sum. What is the value plus number? Okay, and I need to find out. I have to add a sum is equal
plus number.
Yes, someone. Okay, now I also need to count. Since I have got one number which is not equal to 0, I have to increment my total values by 1. Okay, so total underscore values is equal to total underscore values plus 1. So now what this statement is going to do? It is going to do the process of summing up the numbers. Okay, so நீ வாங்குற number, for example, நான் first time உள்ள வரேன். இந்த list of elements input எடுத்துக்கலாம். So நான் first time என்ன input வாங்குவேன்? 1 input வாங்குவேன். So இங்க 1 வரும்போது இங்க இந்த condition check ஆகும். இந்த condition என்ன ஆகும்? False ஆயிடும். False ஆன உடனே இந்த else part குள்ள வருவேன். Else partல வந்து அந்த 1 not equal to 0 ன்னு எனக்கு தெரியும். So I will come inside. What I will do? Earlier I'm having a sum value as 0. I'm adding that to 1. Okay, what was my number? My number was 1. So 0 plus 1, now sum became 1. Okay, so total values enna? Total values வந்து 0 first initialize பண்ணபடி plus 1. So this will become 1. Now total values, there is a new value for total value, that is 1, and sum to be 1. Okay, so after doing this two, what I need to do? I have to proceed with this process. Okay, so இப்போ நான் வந்து அடுத்த நம்பரை input வாங்கணும். So அடுத்த நம்பரை நான் input வாங்கணும்னா I need the input statement over here. So number is equal to, Hope you are clear. After calculating the sum value, after calculating the performing the increment for one value, I have to proceed with the process of getting the input for the next number. I need an input statement to get my next number. Okay, so I will get my next number over here. So int input of, I will put enter number, just putting. Okay, so after I get this number, what I have to do, I have to go check. Okay, after getting this number, I have to go check whether this number is not equal to 0. If that number is not equal to 0, what will happen? Sum will get incremented again. Okay, how it will get incremented? இப்போ நான் வாங்கின இன்புட் வந்து 2ன்னு வச்சுக்கோ. இப்போ இந்த ஸ்டேட்மெண்ட்னால நான் 2ன்றதை இன்புட்டா கொடுத்துட்டேன். இன்புட்டா கொடுத்த உடனே என்ன ஆகும்? Again they will go check. 2 is not equal to 0. Yes, it becomes true. So I will come inside. So உள்ள வரும்போது ஏற்கனவே இருக்கிற sum one value என்ன? 1. Okay, so plus 2. So this becomes 3. Hope this is clear. So next you will move on with the total value. Since I have got another number, again this should be incremented by 1. So it will become 1 plus 1, 2. So we have got the second number. Okay, and we have summed up to the existing sum, and since we have got a second number, we are incrementing the total number of values. Now I have to move on with the process of getting my third number. So this statement will get the third number. After getting the third number, again I will go to this while loop and check whether it is true or not, whether it is equal to 0 or not. Okay, so I will do this process until my input value is 0. இப்போ for example நான் கொடுத்திருக்கிற input வந்து 1, 2, 3, 0 அப்படின்னு வச்சுக்கோங்க. Okay, I am giving this as my input. So when I gave 1, it got summed up to sum 1. Total number of values got incremented by 1. Okay, total number of values got incremented by 1. So now example can we will take this as example. I'm just writing it out. 1, 2, 3, 0. இப்போ இந்த கோட் எப்படி ஒர்க் ஆகும் நம்ம பார்க்கலாம். When I come inside, what happens? I'm just tracing the code. So number equal to 0, you will get the first number. So in the input statement, யாரை input வாங்கும்? 1 input வாங்கும். Okay, so my first input is, my first number value is what?
1.
1.
Is equal to 1. So I will check it against my if it is false. Sorry, my if becomes false, I'll move on with my else part. So in my while, again I'm checking whether number not equal to 0. Yes, this while condition becomes true. You come inside. You come inside, and what was your initial sum? Your initial sum was 0. So sum is equal to 0 plus what was the number I got? 1. So this sum becomes 1. So what happens to your total values? Total underscore values. So it was initially 0 plus, since it have to increment by 1, so this becomes 1. Okay, next you will get the next number. So what is my next number? My next number is equal to 2. Okay, so after getting my next number, again I will check this condition. This condition becomes false. Since this this condition becomes true because 2 is not equal to 0. So again I will proceed with calculation of sum. So sum 1 will be what? Previously it was 1. So இங்க என்ன ஆன்சரோ அதான் நான் எடுத்துப்பேன். So it was 1. So now my new number is what? 2. So 1 plus 2, it gives me 3. So similarly, total values will happen. What is the value of total values over here? You have 1. Again, you have to increment by 1. So it becomes 2. Okay. Now, again, you get your third number. According to our example, your third number is going to be 3. So now again, while loop will get true. You will come into your while loop and you will calculate sum 1 is equal to, previous என்ன இருக்கு? 3 இருக்கு. So 3 plus 3, which is equal to 6. Okay, and total values will become, total values will become 2 plus 1, which is equal to 3. Okay, so now what is the number I get? Number is equal to, what is my fourth number? According to my example, my fourth number is 0. Okay, so after getting the 0, you will go check the condition. So 0 not equal to 0 becomes what? 0 not equal to 0. It is false. 0 is equal to 0. Since it is becoming false, your while condition will become, in this stage your while becomes false. So you will come out. Okay, and you have to come out, and what you have to do? You have to calculate the average. So to calculate the average, what I require? I require sum, and I require the total number of values. So both I have calculated inside my while loop. Okay. So now I hope it is clear. So what I have to do next after coming out of my while loop. Okay. So here I enter, I come out of my while loop and I have to calculate average. So average will be equal to what? Sum 1 divided by total underscore values. Okay. And I will finally print average. Okay. So if I execute this problem,
மேம் டபுள் கோலன்ல தானே போனோம் பிரிண்ட்ல ஆவரேஜ்.
I'm sorry. In average, na, if you want to print, display something within, display something on your output screen, you will put it within double quotes. Okay. இல்லைன்னா டைரக்டா ஆவரேஜை பிரிண்ட் பண்ணலாம். இப்போ நீங்க சொல்றீங்கன்னா the averages, நான் எப்பவுமே இப்படிதானே போட்டிருப்பேன். the averages கோலன் வச்சுட்டு டபுள் கோட்ஸ்ல போட்டுட்டு கமா போட்டுட்டு ஆவரேஜ் என்னன்ற வேல்யூவை நான் பிரிண்ட் பண்ணணும். வேரியபிள் அப்படியே கொடுத்தா அது பிரிண்ட் பண்ணும். வேரியபிளோடைய வேல்யூவை பிரிண்ட் பண்ணும். ஓகே கிளியர்? ஸோ புரிஞ்சுதா சார்?
ஒரு முறை
பிரிண்ட் ஸ்டேட்மெண்ட்ல டபுள் கோட்ஸ்குள்ள கொடுக்கறது அப்படியே அவுட்புட் ஸ்கிரீன்ல டிஸ்ப்ளே ஆகும். இப்போ ஆவரேஜ்ன்றது ஒரு வேரியபிள் நேம். ஸோ அந்த வேரியபிளோட வேல்யூவை அந்த இடத்துல பிரிண்ட் பண்ணும். ஓகே. ஸோ if I run this module, it is asking me to enter a number. So I'm entering the number to be 1. Okay. Now it's asking for me to enter the other number. It will be 2. Now 3. Now if I enter 0, it stops and it will say average is 2. Okay. And 6 divided by 3 நம்மளுக்கு வந்திருக்கும். 6 divided by 3 வந்து it's 0. It's 2. So that has been given as an average over here. So I hope this problem is clear. So this is how you will work out by understanding a program. இது logic first define பண்ணிட்டு அப்புறம் எழுதுனீங்கன்னா it will be easy. So now we will move on with the next iteration called as for loop. Okay. So when we speak about for loop, the syntax of for loop goes in this way. Okay. In Python, the syntax of for loop is little bit different. Okay. So how we have to go through this for loop is, I'll just explain. You have your for keyword. Okay. Followed your for keyword, you will be having an iterating variable. We'll call this as an iterating variable. And then you have your in keyword followed by a sequence. Okay. So what is the meaning of this is, for is actually, when we will use while is, if you don't know the number of elements, okay, if you don't know the number of elements that you're going to process, you go for while. But if you know the number of elements that you're going to process, then you can go with for. Okay. So இங்க பாத்தீங்கன்னா இந்த ரெண்டு keyword முக்கியம். for அப்புறம் ஒரு iterating variable என்னன்னு சொல்லணும். அதுக்கப்புறம் in a sequence. So what is the meaning of this is, the element in this sequence. I'll just show an example for this. You will understand it easily. Okay. So எப்படி இந்த for loop எழுதுவோம்னா, for I will give an iterating variable. Okay. So iterating variable, I'm giving it as R. Sorry, A. So for A, in, okay, I'm giving a list of numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So what is the meaning of this is, when I get in, for is usually used for what purpose? For repeating a set of statements again and again. Okay. So when I come into my loop for the first time, this iterating variable A, okay, this variable A will take a value 1 first. Okay. When I execute the same for loop for the second time, this A will take a value 2. Then this A, for the third time, it will take a value 3. For the fourth time, it will take a value 4. For the fifth time, it will take this value called as 5. So whatever value I give in this sequence, that value will be assigned to this iterating variable one by one. Am I clear? Am I clear? So what you do in this for? You will give a sequence, okay, and in that sequence, in an order, you will take each and every item in the sequence and you will place it into that iterating variable. Okay. So you will do this process for all the values in your sequence. So A என்ற இந்த iterating variable குள்ள first நீ எடுத்து push பண்ண போற value என்ன 1. அடுத்தது நீ push பண்ண போற value என்ன 2. Okay, so for the second loop, when you get into the first loop of your for loop, you will assign a is equal to 2. When you again do this for loop for the second time, you will assign the value to be 2, then 3, then 4, then 5. So 5 values மட்டும் தான் என் லிஸ்ட்ல இருக்கு. ஸோ அந்த 5 வேல்யூக்கும் இந்த ஃபார் லூப் 5 டைம்ஸ் எக்ஸிக்யூட் ஆகும். அதுக்கு மேல எக்ஸிக்யூட் ஆகாது. ஓகே, ஸோ வைல்ல வந்து நம்ம ஒரு வாட்டியும் we calculated the number of execution of the statements within the while can change from one execution to another execution. But in for loop, if this is going to be the case, I've told this is my sequence. ஸோ இந்த சீக்வன்ஸ்ல இருக்கிற ஒரு எலமெண்டா எடுத்து நீ ப்ராசஸ் பண்ணு. ஸோ அந்த சீக்வன்ஸ்ல எத்தனை எலமெண்ட் இருக்குன்னு உனக்கு ஏற்கனவே தெரிஞ்சிருந்ததுன்னா, உங்களுக்கு தெரிஞ்சிருந்ததுன்னா, then no way, there is no need for you to calculate that n value and all. Directly you can give. So here if you see, repeating the if you want to repeat the execution of set of statements for a specific number of times, okay, 5 times. If I 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and the 5 times I want to execute. So if you want to execute it for a specific number of times, then you can go for loop. So this is a very simple example. So in the example நம்ம work out பண்ணி பார்த்தா ரொம்ப சிம்பிளா இருக்கும். So for loop படி நம்ம என்ன பண்ண போறோம்? You will use for loop very much after learning the different collections in Python. You have collections like list, tuple, set, dictionary. இதெல்லாம் லேர்ன் பண்ணிட்ட பிறகு நீங்க ஃபார் லூப்ஸ் நிறைய இடத்துல யூஸ் பண்ணுவீங்க. ஸோ அதுக்கு முன்னாடி வரைக்கும் ஃபார் லூப்போட யூசேஜ் கம்மியா தான் இருக்கும். அதுக்கப்புறம் தான் ஃபார் லூப்போட யூசேஜ் அதிகமா இருக்கும். ஓகே, ஸோ நவ் ஐ வில் புட் ஃபார் நம்பர் இன். ஓகே, number in, I'm putting the sequences 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I will keep a semicolon over there. This is your syntax. Now after coming inside, I'm just printing number. So what is the meaning of this? First, when I execute this for loop, number is an iterating variable which will take a value 1 first. Okay, it will take a value 1 first. And when I come inside my for loop, I have only one statement. In that statement, what I'm going to do, I'm going to just print number directly. Okay, so I will just have a message to here. The number is, okay, number. Clear. So first number value will be 1 for the first iteration. Then you move on to the second iteration, number value becomes 2. So what will get printed? 2 gets printed. Then you move on with the third iteration, what gets printed? 3 gets printed. You move on with your fourth iteration, what gets printed? 4 gets printed. Then you will go to your fifth iteration, what gets printed? 5 gets printed. So if I execute this program, what will happen is, not getting anything from keyboard. So directly it will say the number is 1, number is 2, number is 3, number is 4, number is 5. Okay. So based on the application or the problem statement, you can use your for loop. That is, you know how many times a particular loop is going to get executed, then obviously you can go for loop. Okay. So when you're going to work with sequence, you will actually go for loop rather than while. But irundalum, we don't have a pakka definition to say that these are the situations in which you have to use for and these are the situations in which you have to use while. Apdila in the definition kadiyad. Okay, so it depends upon your problem statement. So எது யூஸ்ஃபுல்லா இருக்கும் நீங்க ஃபீல் பண்ணீங்களோ that can be used over there. So now the question arises over here. For example, உனக்கு வந்து 1ல, for example, for you want to give number starting from 1 till 100. Okay, புரியுதா? You want to represent a sequence starting from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 till 100. You want to represent a sequence. If that is going to be the case, can I do it manually like this? Like 6, 7, 8. It goes on. Okay, it's a tedious process. You can do it. It's nothing wrong in it, but it's waste of time. It's mere waste of time for typing 100 digits over there, starting from 1 till 100. Okay, so how you will handle such kind of situations? For that purpose, we will be learning about the function called as range function. Okay, so when we want the loop to run for 1 to 100 times. Okay, so நம்ம previous example பார்க்கும்போது நம்ம loop, நம்ம iteration எத்தனை வாட்டி நடந்துச்சு? How many times the iteration took place? It took place 5 times. Okay, now you have a process where you have to make the loop to run for 100 times. அப்ப நான் 1, 2, 3, 4 till 100 வரைக்கும் எழுதிட்டு இருக்க முடியாது. So we don't want to create that sequence in a manual way. So we need a better option for that. So that better option, okay, is your range function. So what is the purpose of this range function is through your range function you can indicate a sequence. Okay, so you have to tell this is where my sequence starts. Okay, this is where my sequence ends, and this is the step value, that is the increase value. This is step actually indicates the difference between the consecutive numbers. Okay, what should be the difference between the consecutive numbers? In the step பண்றது வந்து optional. This can be optional. இதை நான் கொடுக்கவே இல்லைன்னா ஸ்டெப்ன்ற வேல்யூவை நான் ரேஞ்ச் ஃபங்க்ஷனுக்கு கொடுக்கலன்னா ஆக்சுவலா அது என்ன பண்ணும்னா இட் வில் டேக் தி ஸ்டெப் கவுண்ட் வேல்யூ டு பி 1. ஓகே, ஸோ இப்போ நான் ஸ்டார்ட்ல 1 கொடுத்து எண்டில் 100 கொடுத்தேன்னா what my range function will actually do is it will start from 1, then it will go to 2. எப்பவுமே step count value default value வந்து step increment default value வந்து 1 தான். So 1, 2, 3 it will go on till 99. So ஏன் 99 னா இதுதான் range function உடைய work. நீங்க எங்க ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ண சொல்றீங்களோ it will start from that. எங்க end பண்ண சொல்றீங்களோ அதுக்கு முன்னாடி ஒரு ஸ்டெப்ல end ஆயிடும். Okay, it will end one step before. That is the usage of range function. So I will tell start வந்து it will indicate the starting number of the sequence. End வந்து it will generate up to this end but not including that end number. So இப்போ நான் end 100 ன்னு கொடுத்தேன்னா range will consider only till 99. Okay, it will not take 100 into consideration. It will consider only till 99. The step count value, for example, நான் start வந்து range of I'm giving start as 1 and I'm giving end as 100. Then I'm giving the step count value to be 2. So what happens over here? It will take the initial value to be 1. Then it will take step count increases by 2. So it will go to 3. Then it will go to 5. Then it will go to 7, 9. It goes on till 99. Okay, so step count difference value பாத்தீங்கன்னா 2 difference இருக்கும். இப்போ நான் step count value கொடுக்கல. For example, if I don't give range of 1, 100, this is also correct. It's not wrong. Okay, that third argument or third parameter we say that is optional. So 1, 100 நான் கொடுத்தேன்னா அது எப்படி எடுத்துக்கும் 1, 2, 3, till 99. Okay, am I clear? For this purpose, that is to generate a sequence. If you want to generate a sequence rather than typing a sequence manually, if you want to generate a sequence by yourself, then you can use this range function. So here if you see இதே example நம்ம convert பண்ண try பண்ணா what I can do is rather than giving those values manually, I can write it in this way. So for number in range of, okay, range of 1, 100, 2. So now what this will print, we will check it out. So if I run this problem, so see it's printing till 99. Okay, so 2 step ahead. So here if you see it's 81, 83, 85, 87, 89, 91, 93, 95, 97 and 99. So all the odd numbers gets displayed over here. Okay, so this is the purpose of using range. So range is used to generate your own sequence. So in the for loop எத்தனை வாட்டி execute பண்ணனும் நீ decide பண்றத the range function வச்சு நீ decide பண்ணிக்கலாம். Am I clear? Am I clear? So this is the purpose of using range function. So with this we have completed our discussion with respect to while loop and for loop. Okay, so now I already told you there are 3 other statements which can control the process of this while and for. The while for உடைய iteration counter, this 3 statements can control. So we will start our discussion with break. So when we want to stop a loop based on an external condition, we can use break statement. So நான் ஒரு simple example சொல்றேன். அதாவது நம்ம previous for loop எடுத்துக்கலாம். So இந்த for loop எடுத்துக்கோங்க. So இந்த rangeல நீங்க என்ன சொல்லி what we have told over here, we are asking them to print from 1, 100, 2. Okay, but if you have a condition stating that if this number is equal to 67, okay, இப்ப 67ன்ற நம்பரை நம்ம இந்த ரேஞ்சில் generate பண்ணோம்னா I will say break. So break implies what? Break ஓட usage இங்க என்னன்னா it will stop the iteration with 67. ஆக்சுவலா இந்த ஐட்ரேஷன் எது வரைக்கும் ப்ரொசீட் ஆயிருக்கும் நீங்க பாத்தீங்கன்னா 99 வரைக்கும் ப்ரொசீட் ஆயிருக்கும். ஓகே, ஆனா இந்த கேஸ்ல 67 வரும்போது நம்ம பிரேக்னு ஒரு ஆப்ஷன் கொடுத்துட்டோம். அப்ப என்ன ஆகும்? when it comes across 67 it will not print 67, it will stop with 65. பிரேக்க பார்த்த உடனே என்ன பண்ணும்? அந்த லூப்பை விட்டு வெளியே வந்துரும். when it sees if number is equal to 67, you are saying break. Break implies you have to stop the for loop process and you have to stop the iteration and you have to come out of that for loop. Okay, so this is an external condition that we are including over here. For loop க்குன்னு ஒரு condition இருக்கு. 1ல இருந்து 99 வரைக்கும் இந்த printing process நடக்கணும்னு நம்ம சொல்லிட்டோம். Okay, but if you want to introduce an external condition, for example, if the number value is equal to 67, then stop everything over that. Okay, stop everything at that place and come out of my for loop. So if I want to introduce an external condition and if I want to stop the iteration of for loop, I can do it with which statement? Break statement. இப்போ இந்த program நான் execute பண்ணேன்னா what will actually happen is if I run this 65 ஓட ஸ்டாப் ஆயிடும். ஏன்னா 67 நம்பர் 67ன்றது வந்து சீக்வென்ஸ்ல இருந்து நம்பருக்கு அசைன் ஆகும்போது you have a conditional check inside your for loop. What is that check? If number is equal to 67, you have to break. Break implies what? அதுக்கப்புறம் எந்த ப்ரொசீடும் கிடையாது. அப்படியே iteration அங்கே ஸ்டாப் பண்ணிட்டு you have to come out of your for loop. So it came out of your for loop and it never printed the numbers from 67 to 99 வரைக்கும் உள்ள numbers அது print பண்ணல. Okay, so break can be used when you want to introduce an external condition to stop a loop. Okay, to stop a loop. இப்போ நான் வந்து I'm giving you a list of elements. Okay, and I'm asking you to find out the even number present in it. இப்போ நான் உங்களுக்கு ஒரு எக்ஸாம்பிளா சொல்றேன். இப்போ for number in நான் ஒரு set of numbers கொடுக்குறேன். 2 I'm sorry 3 7 8 9 3 2 1, something like this. Okay, so I'm giving a set of numbers like this, a sequence of numbers. So in the problem statement என்னன்னா whenever you come across an even number, you have to stop the process and you have to come out. even number found அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு நம்ம வெளியே வந்துடணும் அப்படின்னு ஒரு கண்டிஷன் இருக்கு. இப்போ ஃபர்ஸ்ட் 23 எடுத்து நம்பருக்கு அசைன் பண்ணுமா? சோ நம்ம என்ன செக் பண்ணணும்? 23 ஈவனா இல்லையான்னு செக் பண்ணணும். சோ 23 ஈவனா இல்லையான்னு செக் பண்றதுக்கு கண்டிஷன் ஏதாவது சொல்லுங்க. You can tell me a condition. That's it, mod 2. If a number is divisible by 2, then you can say that's an even number. If it is not divisible by 2, it's an odd number. So now if a number mod 2 is equal to 0 வா இருந்துச்சுன்னா, okay, I will break. Otherwise I will print that number. So in the case படி எத்தனை numbers print ஆகும்? 23 is an even number or odd number? It's an 23 is an odd number. Okay, 7 is an odd number. When I come to 8 is an even number. So what will happen? It will break and it will come out. So 23 7 மட்டும்தான் print ஆகும். So when I encounter an even number, stop the process. No need to proceed. அப்படின்றது அர்த்தம் இங்க. Okay, so that is what happens over here. So next I will move on with the next loop, which is called as continue. So what is the purpose of continue is in a for loop. Okay, in a loop, for example, if you take this for loop, இதை வச்சு explain பண்றேன். So you have the iterating variable to be passengers and you have given a sequence over here AA, FC, C, FA, SP, AA. So A என்றதுக்கு meaning என்னன்னா adult, FC க்கு meaning என்னன்னா flight captain. Okay, so FA க்கு meaning என்னன்னா flight assistant, C க்கு meaning என்னன்னா child. Okay, SP க்கு என்னன்னா suspicious person. Okay, so what is the problem statement of this particular code is when a passenger, okay, is going to be a flight captain or a flight assistant, okay, there is no need to check them. Okay, you can just move on with the next person. என்ன பண்ணணும்? We have to move on with the next person. இப்போ adult-ஆ child-ஆ இருந்தாங்கன்னா I have to do my normal security check. இப்ப suspicious person இருந்தாங்கன்னா I have to go with the emergency. I have to declare an emergency in the airport and I have to stop the process of checking them. Okay, clear? So இப்போ இங்க என்ன ஆகும்னா continue அப்படின்றது எந்த ஃபேஸ்ல யூஸ் பண்றோம்னா if my passenger is going to be a flight captain or a flight assistant. Okay, நான் உள்ள வரேன் பேசஞ்சருக்கு ஃபர்ஸ்ட் ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள் flight captain assign ஆயிருந்ததுன்னு வச்சுக்கோ. Okay, so if passenger is equal to flight captain, this becomes true. What you will come and do, you will come and tell no check required, continue. The continue என்ன பண்ணும்னா it will stop, it will skip these parts and there is no need for me to do all these things. ஏன்னா செக் தி பர்சன், செக் ஃபார் கேபின் பேகேஜ், இதெல்லாம் வந்து ஃப்ளைட் அட்டெண்டன்ட்டுக்கும் ஃப்ளைட் கேப்டனுக்கும் நம்ம பண்ண தேவை இல்லை. ஸோ இந்த ப்ராசஸை அவங்க திருப்பி அவங்க எப்படிப்பட்ட பேசஞ்சர் இல்லை அவங்க அடல்ட்டா சைல்டா நான் திருப்பி செக் பண்ண தேவை இல்லை. ஓகே, ஸோ வென் ஐ கம் இன்சைட் மை லூப் and if I identify that it is a flight captain, I can skip all the further procedures and I can move to the next person. That means in this case to the next iteration. So continue பார்த்த உடனே என்ன நடக்கும்னா I'm coming for this part. So FC தான் வேல்யூனா பேசஞ்சருக்கு FCன்ற வேல்யூ இருந்துச்சுன்னா இந்த no check required print ஆயிட்டு it will move on with continue. What continue will do is it will skip all these stuff. Okay, and it will move to next iteration. Next iteration பேசஞ்சருக்கு C value assign பண்ணிடும். Okay, is it clear? So whenever you want to skip the statements within your for loop based on an external condition, then you can go with continue. Okay, so continue and the purpose ku use பண்ணுவாங்க. And the third thing is called as parse. So usage of parse is very simple. Parse statement எப்போ யூஸ் பண்ணுவாங்கன்னா parseன்றது வெறும் ஒரே ஒரு வார்த்தை. The parse statement when we will use is when you don't want that execution to happen. Okay, no execution is there, you don't know what code to put in over there. Okay, அந்த ஸ்டேஜ்ல அந்த கண்டிஷன் ட்ரூவா இருந்துச்சுன்னா என்ன எக்ஸிக்யூட் பண்ணணும் அப்படின்றது உனக்கு தெரியல, உங்களுக்கு தெரியலனா you can use this pass statement to refer the future code. Okay, so if you take this example here, you can see இனிஷியலா எக்ஸோட வேல்யூவை ஜாயின் நான் அசைன் பண்றேன். ஸோ இங்க நான் என்ன செக் பண்றேன், எக்ஸ் ஜானான்னு செக் பண்றேன். எக்ஸ் ஜானா இருந்தா நேம பிரிண்ட் பண்ணுவேன். ஓகே, எல்எஃப் வாட் ஐ எம் செக்கிங், எக்ஸ் இஸ் ஈக்குவல் டு ஜாயான்னு செக் பண்ணுவேன். எக்ஸ் ஜாயா இருந்தா I don't know what to do. Okay, I don't know what to do. If that is going to be the case, that is as a developer at this stage, I don't know what code to put in that place. Okay, and the place kana code என்னன்னு எனக்கு இப்போ reveal ஆகல, but I want to execute that particular code. If that is going to be the case, what you can do is you can put a pass over there. So pass will be never executed by your Python வந்து pass execute பண்ணாது. Okay, and it will move on with the further procedure. அடுத்த iterationக்கு process ஆயிருவீங்க. Okay, so pass is generally used to act as a placeholder for future code. So future la I can replace this pass by some other code. Okay, so pass will never disturb the other execution. Okay, so if you don't know what to put in a particular place, you can put pass over there. இப்போ நம்ம இதெல்லாம் பெருசா யூஸ் பண்ண மாட்டோம் நம்மளோட கோடிங் பார்ட்ல, பட் யூ ஹேவ் டு நோ இஃப் யூ ஆர் கீப்பிங் சம்திங் ஃபார் ஃபியூச்சர் ரெஃபரன்ஸ், யூ கேன் டூ இட் வித் தி ஹெல்ப் ஆஃப் பாஸ் இன் பைத்தான். Okay, so other than this you have nested loops. So what is the meaning of nested loop? Now placing a loop within a loop within another loop, that is called as nested loop. Okay, so idhula nested loop concept is very important. So I'm taking some time, I will take another 5 minutes and then you can move on with your lab. So why I'm saying it's important is nested loop உடைய process என்னன்றது கொஞ்சம் it will take a little bit time to understand. So I will try to make you understand with an example. So I'll take an open a file which is already there, nest. Okay, so what is happening over here is I have this is my first loop. Okay, this is my loop 1 and this is my loop 2. Okay, so now I will say this loop 1 as my outer loop. அவுட்டர் லூப்னு யாரை சொல்லுவேன்னா எந்த லூப் இன்னொரு லூப்பை என்க்ளோஸ் பண்ணுதோ அந்த லூப் அவுட்டர் லூப்னு சொல்லுவோம். This is called as inner loop. Why we call it as inner loop? Because this is the loop which is enclosed within another loop. So this is called as inner loop. So how the execution takes place அப்படின்றத இங்க we have to understand in a better way. So how the execution will actually take place is, first, what value will be initialized to I? I will take what value? We know what is the meaning of for loop. I will take a value. Can you answer?
Apple.
So apple will be the value of I. Okay. Now you will come inside your loop. So I takes a value apple. You're coming inside your loop. After you come inside your loop, you have another loop inside. Okay. You have a loop based on j. So that loop will get executed. Now what value j will take?
One will be the
J will
value.
take a value 1. Okay. And what will get printed? J will get printed first. What is j value? 1. And then high value needs to be printed. That is apple. Okay. So now next what happens over here is what you have to understand. எப்போமே outer loop குள்ள இருந்து நீ inner loop குள்ள வந்துட்டீங்க. Now the inner loop will get executed completely for the first iteration of the outer loop. So what is the first iteration of your outer loop? First iteration la I value apple. Okay. இப்போ inner loop full execute ஆகி முடியும். இப்போ அடுத்த j value என்ன?
2.
2.
So இப்போ எங்க என்ன print ஆகும்? j என்ன? 2. I என்ன?
Banana.
No. I value change ஆகல. I have
Apple.
taken
Oh.
I value as apple and I have got into my inner loop. My inner loop will get executed completely. Completely na 3 வேல்யூக்கும் execute ஆகும். 1, 2, 3ன்ற 3 வேல்யூக்கும் execute ஆகும். So 3 கேஸ்லயும் I ஓட வேல்யூ என்ன? apple தான். j is equal to 3 எடுக்கும். So 3 print ஆகும். அப்புறம் apple print ஆகும். Now my inner execution is completely over. Now I have to move to my
Outer loop.
outer loop. So outer loop க்கு வேற values இருக்கா?
Banana.
Yes. You have I now takes a value banana. Okay. Now j value is what? Again j starts from first. இது திருப்பி inner loop. திருப்பி banana க்கு திருப்பி inner loop execute ஆகும். Okay. Is it clear? So j becomes
One
1
banana.
again. So 1 banana.
2 banana.
Again j becomes 2 and 2 banana. Then j becomes 3, 3 banana. Okay. So inner loop complete execute ஆகி முடிச்சிருச்சா? Then we will move on with outer loop. Outer loopல இன்னும் வேல்யூ என்கிட்ட இருக்கா? இருக்கு. என்னது இது? I is equal to grapes. Now again I will come into my inner loop. Okay. Inner loopல திருப்பி j க்கு ஃபர்ஸ்ட்ல இருந்து வேல்யூ எடுக்கணும். j வந்து 1. அப்ப என்ன print ஆகும்? 1, grapes. Similarly j will become 2, 2, grapes will be printed. Then j becomes 3. So 3, grapes. So this is how the execution takes place when you are nesting loops. Okay. So for each and every iteration of your outer loop, your inner loop will get executed completely. ஸோ கன்ஃபியூஷன் வேணாம். உங்களுக்கு என்ன கன்ஃபியூஷன் வரும்? மேம் ஜேக்கு வந்து 1 வேல்யூ வந்துருச்சு, அப்புறம் 2 வந்துருச்சு, அப்புறம் 3 வந்துருச்சு, முடிச்சாச்சுல. திருப்பி எப்படி ஜேக்கு 1 அசைன் ஆகுதுன்னா, நம்ம அவுட்டர் லுப்க்கு திருப்பி வெளியே போயிட்டோம். ஓகே. உள்ள வந்தோம், ஒர்க்கை முடிச்சிட்டோம், திருப்பி வெளியே போயிட்டோம். வெளியே போயிட்டு நம்ம திருப்பி உள்ள வந்தா அதே ஒர்க்கை நம்ம ஃபர்ஸ்ட்ல இருந்து தான் பண்ணணும். ஞாபகம் வச்சுக்கோங்க. இதான் சிம்பிள் அனாலஜி. ஐ கேம் இன்சைட், ஐ டிட் தி ஒர்க், ஐ லெஃப்ட். If I come inside again, I have to do the work from the first. So again, j will be assigned a value 1, 2, 3. Is it clear? So in the programmer, if I execute this program, if I run this code, so what it is printing? 1 apple, 2 apple, 3 apple, 1 banana, 2 banana, 3 banana, 1 grapes, 2 grapes, 3 grapes. Okay. So first varadella inner loop oda values, second varadella outer loop oda values. Okay. Is it clear? So this is the meaning of nested loops. So work out, if you try these quizzes in InfoTQ portal, you will get a better clarity of how for and while loop actually works, and then you can move on with your digital cafe part. Okay. So if you have doubts, kindly feel free to ask me as well as the laboratory faculties. We are always ready to help you. எதுல டவுட் இருந்தாலும் நீங்க எனக்குமே வாட்ஸ்அப் பண்ணலாம். You can also WhatsApp them too. During your laboratory sessions, you can ask them doubt. Fine. So I hope you have a clarity with this. So if you have any doubts, you can ask me. Otherwise, you can end up this session. You can move on with your laboratory session. Thank you.